Overcoming victim mentality is one of the most powerful jumps in consciousness that you can do. The moment you realize that you are fully responsible for how you perceive your reality is the moment when everything begins to shift. So basically what this means is that instead of throwing blame and pointing fingers and making everything around you be the cause of why you feel the way you feel, you now go inwards and you go, why am I getting triggered? What internal wound is this activating, and how do I want to choose to feel from this situation? This is the moment when you take your power back into yourself. So unfortunately, the only way to really truly set yourself free has everything to do with overcoming your ego. But before we get into that, hi, my name is Talia. I am a modern mystic, and my life's purpose is to help people just like you transcend your self-limiting beliefs so you can unleash the highest, most magnetic, and most unapologetic version of you. If that sounds interesting to you, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Okay, so if you find yourself feeling like the victim in some situation, it might have been a fight with your friend, it might have been a fight with the person you're dating, whatever it is. If you feel victimized,
how many of you have ever felt personally victimized by Regina George?
Then it's very likely that you're throwing blame at the person and the person is the one that is wrong. The person is the one that hurt you. Regardless of what happened, it really doesn't matter how many reasons you have to justify whatever happened and feeling like you're in the right, because there is no universal book of consciousness that says this is right and this is wrong. What I'm here to tell you is that whatever happened, you have a choice to either stay in victim mode or to say, okay, how can I look at this differently? Why am I getting triggered? Why am I being activated? The longer you stay in victim mode, it's reinforcing your ego of being like, I'm right, you're wrong. And that, my friend, is not gonna take you anywhere. Let's take a look at David Hawkins' map of consciousness. If you've never seen this before, David Hawkins is a scientist and a mystic. And he ran this study where he basically took people and muscle tested them to see how they reacted based on how strong or how weak they would get if they would feel an emotion or think of something. And you can see in the lower end of the table, all of those emotions were what made people go weaker. And all the ones starting from courage up were the things that made people go stronger. So if we talk about ego and pride is just the first one of the list of the ones that make people go weaker. So what it really takes is for you to overcome your ego, overcome that pride of feeling like you're right, so that you can start to basically grow in consciousness and have more power, right? So it takes courage to admit that maybe you're not in the right, and doesn't mean that the other person is right, because like I said, there is no right or wrong, but you have to give yourself that push to go into those higher states of neutrality, of okay, maybe I can choose to not look at it that way and not be in victim mode, but be like, okay, how can I enter a more neutral position so that I can look at things more clearly rather than looking at it using the life-suppressing emotions such as anger. So let me give you an example of something that I went through recently that really illustrates this point. So there's this person that I've known for a long time now. We dated about 5 years ago, but we were long distance. So eventually he broke up with me because of the distance. And I was so in love with this man. I didn't even know at the time how in love I was. I didn't know what was really love. That's a different topic. I was so devastated when he broke up with me that I just shut down. And within 2 weeks, he was already texting me again and bothering me. But I was like, I am done. What's funny is that after that, the pandemic happened and I ended up actually moving to the city where he's in, not because of him, for separate reasons, but to Miami. I always wanted to live here, but I didn't tell him. And when he found out, I was like, no, I'm done. And then about 3 years later, we're both single at the same time, and then we start talking again. And at first, we're both kind of walking on eggshells because there's a lot of history, but at the same time, a lot of chemistry. But then I noticed that he's kind of pulling away. Even before as soon as we start getting close, he's pulling away. And at this point, I'm learning to communicate better. And so I ask him, I bring it up, and he's like, I heard you're talking to somebody else, and I don't know what I want. And basically he was just all over the place. And I was like, hey, can we talk through this? You know, don't pull away. I legit wasn't seeing anybody. And like, this guy was my friend. The guy he thought I was seeing, he was just my friend. Anyway, he ended up breaking up with me. And then after he did that, I actually got really angry because I was like, what the fuck? Like, he just broke up with me based on an assumption. And I'm here telling him that it's not true, but he won't believe me. And I'm like, he's such a child. He won't listen to me. He won't have a mature conversation with me, even in person. This was all in text. So then a few weeks later, he reaches back out, being the usual avoidant that he is. So I'm like, we're gonna talk about this. So we talk about it. And I think it's the first time he's like truly vulnerable with me. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, I haven't had good experiences with relationships. So it freaks me out and I just want to go slow. And I'm like, okay, let's go slow. So he invites me to this party with his friends. And he's like, bring your friends, like, you know, we should all go. And my friends at first, they all say they want to go, and then everybody bails. I didn't feel like I should go on my own, so I just said I won't be able to make it, but like, hopefully something else comes up. And then he was like, okay, whatever. And then a few days later, I'm like, hey, do you want to come to my holiday party? And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for the invite. But then the next day, he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have some friends in town, and I just found out they're organizing a boat party, so I can't go to your party. And I hear this, and I'm like, he's canceling it on my party, on my holiday party? I used to react really badly. I used to just like really, I don't know. I didn't have a good temper a few years ago, but I've worked on that. My thought was, this guy doesn't give a shit. Like, this is important to me, and he's canceling. So I was like, you know what? This all feels too casual for me. You know what? Like, let's just not bother. So I basically broke up with him. Then yeah, he gets angry, and then I'm over here super sad because I feel like he didn't care. And then a few days pass, and then I'm like, you know, back to my nervous system is regulated. And I'm like, okay, I feel like we didn't really talk well, and like I reach back out. And then when we talk, he's super hurt. And basically when I'm having this conversation with him, he's like, I don't get it. You canceled on me first. And then when I canceled on you, you freaked out. And I'm like, I didn't cancel on you. He's like, yeah, I invited you to the party. And I'm like, well, because my friends didn't want to go. So I didn't think we were in that stage for me to go by myself and you be with all your friends and, you know, all your friends and then me with you. Like, I didn't, and he's like, but I invited you. Like, I wanted to be with you. I don't care if your friends come or not. So literally right after he told me this, I was like, holy shit. I also broke up with him because of an assumption. I basically just reacted and I was like, no, he doesn't care. So basically, like, I assumed that he didn't care. That was my belief. And then I went, oh, we both have a fear of abandonment. So we make rash decisions because it's a classic, right? You'd rather leave before you get left. So it was so interesting when I noticed that. I felt like an idiot because then I was like, oh, there I was just a few weeks ago, throwing blame and being like, he's so dramatic. He's creating all these novella and like he won't talk to me. He's so immature. And then I did the same thing. I did the exact same thing. And I was like, wow, this is such a pattern. Like, we're doing the same thing to each other. And here was my spiritual ego because I was thinking, I do all this spiritual work. I'm always working on myself. Why am I with this person that doesn't do anything? He doesn't do any spiritual work whatsoever. But why are we so attracted to each other? And that's when I understood. He was reflecting something back at me, something about me that I needed to heal, but it was unconscious. I really thought that I was the bigger person here until I saw it. Thankfully, I had a little awakening there. And well, we decided to, you know, be very mindful about this pattern that we both had and to communicate better. And just a few days later, I saw that he was out one night. And I immediately got that, you know, the nerves again of like, is he lying to me? He told me he was busy, but now he's out. And, you know, I started getting tense again and that same reaction. But this time I was like, okay. We just went through the situation. Don't jump to conclusions. So I thought, oh, wait, no. He told you that he had a conference this weekend. And I noticed that he was with his friend, who's also his business partner. And then another guy that he was with, I know he works in sports. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe they came from the conference. Okay, and then I started putting pieces together. And I was like, okay, maybe that's it, you know, like chill out. And so I chilled out, and I eventually talked to him, and yeah, they were there after work, after the conference, having drinks, whatever. And so the important point here is that I reacted from a secured standpoint this time. I didn't really follow my old pattern of jumping ship the moment I feel like he doesn't care about me. Like, that was a belief that I noticed, and I was able to basically shift in that moment. And by changing my reaction is how I shifted my belief. And then my consciousness state really shifted, and I talk about this in a different video in more detail. But basically since then, that pattern really went away, because every time I would feel that fear of like, maybe he doesn't care about me, or he's not responding fast enough, or whatever it was, I would kind of observe myself from the outside and be like, that's the same pattern. And then I would talk maturely, securely. And what was interesting is that I could see him reacting now. When he would get triggered, I knew what was happening. So the pattern shifted in me, it didn't really shift on him. That's a different topic for a different video. But the takeaway here is that I experienced such a massive shift in my energy because I took responsibility for how I chose to feel in these moments. And I didn't jump to conclusions. I really stopped myself when I was feeling those feelings, and I was like, we don't know. And I don't have to go here and pretend to be the victim and that he's an asshole and, you know, basically stay in that fear state. Because when you're feeling like that, when you're like, no, okay, maybe he's doing this, maybe he's seeing somebody else, or no, like those are all trust issues, and that's from a place of fear. Back to the map of consciousness, I was basically in fear and anxiety about being abandoned. So what was my process? My process was to withdraw, to pull away from the relationship, rather than later when I acted from a place of courage. It was from a place of safety, like I'm okay, and I can actually talk to him first rather than pulling away first, and I can trust, right? Because I knew that I could trust him, but I guess in those moments something would get triggered in me that would make me not trust. Now you see it also in other relationships. Like you're gonna notice yourself reacting differently. So remember that everything and everyone can be a teacher in your life if you let it. But if you would rather keep playing victim because frankly it's a lot easier than taking responsibility and dealing with your own shit, well, nothing's gonna change. So which one is it gonna be? Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, you might want to watch my other video where I expand on this thing that I just talked about experiencing this really big energetic shift. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you'd like to stay in the loop about some exciting updates that I'm gonna have very soon, make sure to sign up to my mailing list linked in the description. Thank you so much. Much love.